Hello everyone, welcome back to our scrapbooking 365 days of weather in 2022. Hi, I'm Julie, and this is my project share for you today. Now, I've gone ahead and I've cut all of the pieces, I've got all of my pictures ready, and we're going to go through a few basics. So I did use the die set right here. I used the squares. And Janice is going to be using the Cricut file to do that. So as you can see here, they've all been laid out. And to keep track of all those little squares, it's a good thing to work with washi tape. So this is the example. So you've got one large square, which is 4 by 4 for day 1. And then this one is day 2. The frame is day 3. This frame right here is day 4. And this little square right here is day 5. So each 4 by 4 square, it represents 5 days in the month. And those small little squares, I used 3D foam tape to pop them up. And I also went ahead and stamped my little snowflakes when it snowed. So this is how I'm tracking my pieces and the weather. So what I've highlighted here, this is for me, day 1. And then these ones here are the large squares, so the 4 by 4 squares, which are the base, if you want to call it that. And then I'm also tracking when it snowed. So here I can show you that on the large square, on that day it snowed, and then I've got my 4 smaller square and frame at the top. Now this is probably the hardest part of the assembly, but once they're done, the actual layout comes together very, very nicely. I am bringing back the months of the year stamp set as I really like them for this project. Although March doesn't work right here, as you can see, I am going to use the title, and I am going to bring back the January one, and I will use the snowflakes because that still works for me in March. So as you can see here, it's still really, really cold. I'm still in the blues. I did hit some warmer weather, and this picture right here was done on the 31st of March, so I was very hopeful. So I want to pop this photo right here on the left-hand side. This is my mother-in-law's weather blanket. So we were actually kind of crafting together, but she's knitting her project and I'm scrapbooking mine. So I thought that that was a fun little picture to share with you here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to assemble the left page, and you can see here that I'm actually using pattern paper, which is an old pattern paper that I've had in my stash for years. It was called Aspen, and it was really, really pretty, and I thought, you know what, let's do something a little bit different because I was kind of getting tired of the blues. I'm hoping to go into different colors in a few months, but who knows. So let me show you how these little squares come together, because really this is the hardest part of this layout. But once they're all put together, you'll see that the actual placement of the photos comes together very, very nicely. So when you start with your first frame, I start at the top. You can start at the bottom, whichever works best for you. And then I just line it up. Like I really line up this little frame right at the top. And then I do the second one, which is at the bottom, and I do the same thing. But I'm going to line this one up at the bottom so it's nice and square. So we're just going to pop that one right here at the bottom. And they all fit within each other perfectly. So you can tap them into position or just move them ever so slightly. And then you've got those. And then I'm going to add the little squares. So those are centered within the stitch line if you're using the die cut. So you can see here I've got the stitch line, so I'm just going to center that right like so. And I felt that using 3D foam tape gave it a little bit more dimension because all of the colors are very similar. So this way it just gives a little bit more interest to your page. And that's pretty much it. Now the hardest part is going to be to keep track of all of your days. But honestly, if you mix them up, I don't think anybody's going to know. I'm pretty sure I have them all in the right location, but we'll see. So let's put this layout together. And as I said, it goes together very nicely. So I'm going to start with this one right here at the bottom. And I think it's at like 1.5 from the bottom. So I'm going to put that right there. And I always start with day 2. So day 2, what I'm showing you right here is that little square. So I always place them in the same way, if that makes sense to you. So I'm going to add my photo right here, which is a 4x4. The mat is a 4x4. And then the picture is slightly smaller. And then I'm going to add this other one right here. So I just want to make sure that I'm putting it in the right direction. So again, that small 2x2 or whatever size that is square that is on the upper left is always in the same position. This photo right here was probably the 1st or 2nd day of March, and I thought, oh yay, it's starting to melt. And then it got really, really cold. So when you see those dark blues, for me, that is extreme cold. It's really cold in here. And then we went for a walk another day, and this is a picture perfect winter wonderland day. I think we like to say that in Canada just so that we can get through winter. It is pretty, but darn, it's cold. So anyways, I'm going to add my little strip here at the top. And for me, that's day 1. Like, that's how my March started. Really, really cold. I'm going to add my title here, and that was cut again using a die. And I like to trim them off on the side and then just kind of tuck it on the side of the page, just like this. It looks really nice. It's just, instead of making everything centered, it just gives it another element. So I'm going to pop this up with 3D foam tape. And I am using all of the stamp ones, but these ones here are really, really pretty as well. So this particular one, it's all of the top layer is done in glitter. So I actually glued those individually on top of the, I believe it's Bluebird, and see how nice that looks. I almost use this one, but I want to use the stamp one. So what I did here for the color is I used the average color, and it ended up being Bluebird, and that's how I did the title. So you can do the title whichever way you want, either Cricut one or a stamped one. So I'm also going to use some flip-flops. We actually went out ice fishing. Janice had a good laugh on that one. And it was cold. It was really cold that day. But I thought, why not? Let's document this. I'm going to add those in a little flip-flop. And as you can see, I added just a little bit of tape to kind of glue together my 2 photos. That way they won't slide inside the this little pocket here, the little flip-flop. They don't. I just do that. I don't know why. I've been doing it for years and I just like it that way. So I'm just going to add this on top. And then it's just going to cover the entire photo because the top photo is a 4x4, a true 4x4. And then the one underneath is slightly smaller. So it just kind of overlaps the entire thing. So you just have to make sure that you're cutting your photos the right size. And whichever one you want on the top, that's the one that goes in the flip-flap. So I'm going to add a couple of snowflakes again this month because, you know, it's still snowing. And I thought I'd share this quick tip with you. When you're gluing down small little embellishments like this, sometimes you get a little bit too much glue. So I just kind of dab it off on a Post-it note just to get the extra glue off, and it seems to work really, really nicely. So this is pretty much layout the left-hand side, like layout number 1, but I mean the left-hand side page. I've got all my little squares and where it snowed. So let's do the other side. So again, I'm keeping track of those squares, and here I did cut these little trees in Design Space. I'm going to pop those on with 3D foam tape. And again, if you don't have that particular cartridge that I used, you can use a stamp with little trees, or you can use a die cut. Whatever you have in your stash would work really nicely. So let's talk about this page right here, because I really liked this side of the paper. I like the boldness of it, but when I started to lay out my squares and my photos, you can see here that it's way too busy. That background, although is gorgeous, it was really too busy. So if you're picking a pattern paper, make sure that the pattern is subtle and that the color does not overwhelm your pieces at the front, because we are highlighting every day, because that's what we're tracking, and we're also highlighting our photos. So see, now when I put my little squares down, they match a little bit better. I'm going to pop those in, and then my photos go right here. So this photo right here at the bottom, I celebrated my birthday, and it was a nice and cold one. I find it so funny because people always say to me, oh, it's going to be great, you know, the first week of March, the snow is finally ending, and my birthday's at the end of March, and I know it always snows on my birthday. So I don't want to break their hearts and let them know that it's gonna snow. Don't worry, guys. But you know, sometimes you just have to go with it, and I think we're all a little bit sick of the snow, to be honest with you, at this time of year. So of course, when I went outside and I saw this beautiful pink sky, I thought, wow, okay, the promise of spring, it is coming. So what do we do when it's cold here in Canada? Well, we lock ourselves up in a cabin, we have a nice fire, and we scrapbook. So it's not so bad. You know, you make do with the weather you have to play with, I guess. So here you could tell that it was getting warmer. It was getting a little warmer for us. And then it just started to get cold all the way down to the end of the month. So I'm going to pop my little 5 days right here. And then I'm going to add my little trees. But of course, why not add a little bit of shimmer? So I sped this up a little bit, and I'm just going to tap with the clear shimmer brush to make it look like snow, because yes, we're still pretending like we're enjoying our winter right now, but not really. I'm not a winter person. I know my husband laughs when I say that. He goes, but you live in Canada. I'm like, yes, I know, but I'm not a winter person. So I can't wait for the warmer weather for sure. So let's get back to our layout. So I'm going to add my little trees down here. It does look pretty, but you know what? So does the beach. All right, so let's add our snowflakes. We're going to add these right here at the top of the page, and I'm putting them, you know, in the triangular formation so that it's pleasing to the eye. And this is it. This is my March layout, with the icicles, the beautiful scenery here, me sitting outside, ice fishing. Yeah, that might be a one and done. It was interesting. And then moving on to the end of the month, you could see that it did get a little warmer, and then it got cold again. So we locked ourselves up in a little cabin, did scrapbooking, celebrated my birthday, had some yummy chocolate martinis. I highly recommend those. So March is over. We're going to move on to April very, very soon. So I wanted to come back right here and talk about this title, because you know what? I don't have anyone. No one's claimed the prize from January, February, and March. So I thought, okay, let's add all of the names and let's draw a name for this month, which will include all of these pieces: January, February, the badges, a few snowflakes. And I'm going to draw one name and mail this out to one lucky winner. So let's see who's going to win the whole thing. So send me an email or contact me whichever way you can, and I will mail this out to you. Now, if this doesn't match, your temperature, because it might not. Just let me know, and the pot is going to keep on growing until someone gets it. So here I wanted to kind of show you that I did the same thing as February. I added my little journaling in back of my 4x4 frame. I'm just using here thin 3D foam tape. But before I pull this out, I thought I'd give you another quick tip here. I just run my anti-static tool on the edge where the sticky side is, just really quickly, so that when you're pulling in and out your little journaling tab, it doesn't stick to the edges. That's just a quick little tip. So let's pull those back, and I'm going to add this right on top. The reason why I used thin 3D foam tape for this one right here, it's because it's right up here at the top, and I didn't want it to pull once it was inside the memory protector, but it still slides in really, really nicely. So I've got my journaling, I've got my pages, I'm going to add my flip flaps, got one right here. And yes, I think we are all complete. I like that I can hide my little journaling in back. This is a little flimsy because it's just a piece of paper, literally. But once it's in my album, it's going to look just fine. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and thank you for following along on this pretty awesome project. Now go hang out with Janice and see how this same layout was done using Australian weather. Have yourself a fantastic day. I will catch you in the next video.